By erosion. Decades ago, the federal government pledged to remove an old Navy base from Cape Hatteras, but years of a fading coastline reveal that remnants of that base are still there.
Now it's polluting the ocean at one of our nation's most treasured beachfronts. 10 on your side's Nick Broadway shows us this pollution from the past along the Outer Banks.
I'm standing right at the former site of Naval Station Cape Hatteras, built back in 1956 to detect submarines. It's believed to be the first site to detect a Soviet submarine. In the 1980s, they turned it over to the Coast Guard. And at that point, the Army Corps of Engineers agreed to get rid of Building 19, which was over there. They agreed to get rid of the foundation, but parts of the foundation are still poking out of the beach.
Chunks of foundation, large cables, septic drain pipes, and metal pipes. Some are testing positive for petroleum, leaking away into the ocean, according to the National Park Service. Storms will occasionally cover it up with sand, but it quickly reemerges.
This isn't anything new. It comes and goes, and it comes and goes.
Living and surfing on the banks for more than 40 years, Carol Busby has seen this poke out of the sand many times. Years later, still, none of it was dug out.
Yeah, I come down here, almost every day, and I would say most every day, and I pick the trash up on the beach all the time, and I just wish somebody else would do it too.
A surfer visiting from New Jersey, disappointed to hear stories about others coming out of the water with an oily sheen on their wetsuits.
Not as many developed areas, no skyscrapers, nothing like that you might see in the distance in New Jersey. So when you come here, you kind of expect it to be kind of like a safe haven.
This stretch of beach closed last September, now about 3/10 of a mile long. Laying out the deeply rooted history to county commissioners is State Park Superintendent Dave Halleck.
We had no idea it was here.
A 50-acre site with about 100 workers and several buildings. Thick cables went into the water used to detect Soviet subs, still there today. Commission Chair Bob Woodard took a trip to D.C., talking to local delegation about the base and its pollution.
Without any successes whatsoever of taking ownership of this, it's clearly a federal problem, and the federal government is not responding.
Woodard is especially worried about how this might impact the tourism economy.
We're actually having people having second thoughts about coming down and vacationing.
This Navy base was not this close to the water when it was built, a common theme along the banks. Decades of erosion bringing the Atlantic closer to Building 19, exposing what's left behind.
It's been eroding, since people were occupying the area, and it makes the management of anything along the shoreline here really challenging.
When the Navy turned this over to the Coast Guard in the 80s, the Army Corps agreed to remediate sites used before 1986. The Corps removed about 4,000 tons of petroleum-contaminated soil in the early 2000s. They've since taken samples from the site to figure out where today's contamination is coming from.
We're urging the branches of the military that use this site or are involved in remediation and restoration of the site to remove all of the historic building infrastructure.
The Coast Guard expects to have results from those tests by this June. For the many locals who've been dealing with this problem for the past several years, they're just hoping someone comes by to clean this up. In Buxton, Nick Broadway, 10 on your side.